Hey guys, Dr. Shook here, and this is another sauna session. In today's video, what I'd like to talk about is what we call polyglandular autoimmunity. Okay, and in particular, its relationship to Hashimoto's or any autoimmune condition. So first, let me tell you what polyglandular autoimmunity is. It's where you have more than one autoimmune condition. Okay, and here's the thing: Hashimoto's is an autoimmune condition. You can literally be autoimmune to any tissue in your body. So your immune system, what that means is your immune system attacks the tissue of the body, no longer recognizing that tissue as being part of you, and that tissue over time gets destroyed more and more and more until it can actually lose function. You can lose function of that tissue. And in the case of Hashimoto's, it would be attacking the thyroid until it's destroyed to where you no longer have the function. And like rheumatoid arthritis would be where it attacks the joints until you no longer have function of the joints or until the joints are destroyed. Lupus or multiple connective tissue issues. There are a lot of different types of autoimmune conditions. So if you have one autoimmune condition, you're likely to have others. Okay, and that's polyglandular autoimmunity is something that we know occurs quite frequently. And whenever I have someone come in and they have multiple symptoms, we commonly see with Hashimoto's that people have other autoimmune conditions. And the ones that I tend to find more commonly are autoimmunity against, a condition called pernicious anemia, where it can be, it's basically where your body you make intrinsic factor antibodies, and you cannot absorb B vitamins. Basically, there's a few different ways that can occur, but it's pernicious anemia is one, and that's where pernicious anemia, you'll see the red blood cells will get really big in size, and we see that quite commonly with Hashimoto's. Another thing that we'll see is celiac disease. Celiac disease is a full-blown autoimmune condition against gluten. And you'll see that that people commonly have celiac disease, or more commonly, it's about a 4-to-1. If you have Hashimoto's, you have about an increased risk of 4-to-1 to have celiac disease. And then we know that also we see diabetes more common. We see delayed onset type 1 diabetes, which is actually, there's a term for it. It's called type 1.5 diabetes. It's where you're later in life, you look like you have type 2, maybe you're overweight, you're obese, you have the metabolic syndrome, what we call metabolic syndrome risk factors. But what's happening is that your immune system's actually attacking the pancreas, and you're losing your ability to produce insulin. Okay, so blood sugar rises. So that's where you start looking at things like insulin and C-peptide levels and things to see what the production capacity of the pancreas is. So we start looking at those types of problems, and then we see also that when we order like Cyrex testing, I'll get multiple tissue autoimmune panels on a lot of patients that have, something we see really commonly is people have dizziness and they have Hashimoto's, and so you got to rule out a lot of the common reasons for that, right? You got to look at blood sugar, blood pressure. You've got to look at some different things that can be occurring there, but most of the time when I see people, those things have been ruled out, because most of the people that I see have been through multiple doctors. I mean, not just one. I see people that have seen dozens of doctors. And so what we do is we dig more, right? So one of the things that we'll commonly do is we order a lot of diagnostic testing if needed. It depends on where you are and if that's required for you or that's needed. But one of the things that I'll order is a multiple tissue antibody panel, and it looks at 29 different tissues. There are 24 different markers, or let's just say it this way. There's 29 different tissues that they check for, and some of them are combined. So anyway, the main thing here is that we can look from bone to brain. We look at all kinds of different tissues on this panel, and what we commonly find is that people with Hashimoto's, we find that there's a higher rate of cerebellar antibodies, which the cerebellum is the back part of the brain, and we know through some studies that have been done that when your immune system produces antibodies against the thyroid TPO, which is the primary target with Hashimoto's, that's thyroid peroxidase, the immune system attacks that enzyme in the thyroid. That is autoimmunity against the thyroid. Okay, we know that when the body produces TPO, and a lot of people, they're going to have cross-reactivity where those same antibodies will attach to the tissue of the back part of the brain called the cerebellum. So it's the same antibodies, but because the cerebellar tissue looks so much like your TPO enzyme, that they attach to both, and the same antibodies will attach. So it's called cross-reactivity, and that's due to the molecule of cerebellar tissue looking a lot like the TPO enzyme, and that is called molecular mimicry. So anyway, we see these autoimmunity is something that's a real problem, and that's the bad thing is that autoimmunity can expand to all these different tissues, and it causes permanent damage to the tissues. So autoimmunity is not to be taken lightly. And just because you don't have symptoms doesn't mean it's not something that you should be on top of. I will tell you that's the number one priority when someone comes into my office is what's driving the autoimmunity. Are there food peptides, so partially digested food proteins, okay, food proteins? Are there environmental chemicals? Are there chronic infections? And then a fourth thing that is also important is what is their level of stress? And that stress is physical stress. So if they have chronic pain, is it emotional stress? Are they under stress with bad relationships, finances, whatever it may be? Or is it chemical stresses? Do they have high levels of inflammation? All these stressors will drive a sympathetic response, which is a fight or flight response. That will push your adrenal glands to produce cortisol. Cortisol, when it's elevated or significantly depressed, will thin your barrier systems. And you have 4 barriers. Okay, you've got the gut, the lung, the brain, and the skin. Okay, primarily those are the main barriers we're going to talk about. And so we know that leaky gut is compromised, or intestinal permeability is compromised of the gut barrier. So stress can compromise the gut barrier and promote an autoimmune condition. So if I have someone they come in and they tell me they're a 9 of 10 on their stress, that's going to be a problem unless we can handle that stress, right? And so sometimes that's doable, and sometimes we can use combination of things, right? We work on their whole system with diet. We work on maybe some temporary nutritional supplementation if they're inflamed. We work on as many points that we can, and then we try to give them techniques to help manage and improve their stress. But sometimes you can't do that. And so can you get someone better? Well, maybe not, right? So we have to have a very honest conversation. You need to realize that this is not, people get frustrated sometimes. They're like, well, just tell me what supplements to take. And I'm like, it's not that easy, folks. That's not how the body works, right? The body's not one thing that breaks down typically that causes all these problems. And that's because that's what you're getting medically. I want you to understand that, is that from a medical perspective, everyone looks at one marker or just these few markers and they try to match a medication with it, right? Or you go to the specialist that knows everything about one system. But what about these other systems of the body that are all affecting your problem? That's what functional medicine is. It's looking at it's realizing and understanding that everything's connected in the body, which it is physiologically. It's all connected, and trying to look at the person from as holistically, and meaning not some kind of esoteric out there term. Look at the person and say what's going on with their lifestyle, what's going on with their diet, what's going on nutritionally. What is driving the problem that the person has, and can I make a difference? Can I help them, give them a plan that they implement to make a difference? And that's the reality of it. That's the reality of what this is. And when you see someone that's, I don't like the random prescription of or suggestions of any medications or supplements for that matter. You see someone that wants to promote leaky gut. Let me heal your leaky gut. Well, okay, you can take things to potentially help to heal a leaky gut. So we will use stuff like glutamine, L-glutamine, and zinc carnosine in combination, and they're great to help seal and heal the gut. But why is the gut leaky? Why is the gut leaky? And I could go through 50 different possible physiological breakdowns in your chemistry that cause a leaky gut. And if you're taking the supplement, while you're taking the supplement, you might feel some better, but you're not treating the cause, right? And a lot of times you're not treating the cause. And if you stop taking the supplement, then it's going to come right back. And even if you take the supplement, a lot of times you might have something that's still being driven in the body, or something that's still going on that would cause the leaky gut or cause inflammation that you're not aware of. And it's going to perpetuate and drive other problems and break down other systems. So the best advice I can give anyone is figure out what's driving the problem and support it appropriately. This is kind of digressing a bit, but a lot of times we get into these topics and I want to talk about this polyglandular autoimmunity and all these things that are going on, and you have to realize that everything is connected. So do the best that you can to get to the root drivers of your problem, and don't just look for the magic supplement. That's no different than looking for the magic pharmaceutical. And that's not how your body works. It's not a deficiency in the pharmaceutical. I'm not saying that you don't need, hormones that are vital to life, like thyroid hormone or like insulin. Yeah, there are things, I think that there's a time and place for everything. But I don't like generalized recommendations of supplementation. I just don't like it. It's not how the body works. I don't think it's in your best interest. It might be a good business model, but it's not how the body works. So this was on polyglandular autoimmunity. So if you have autoimmunity, I would advise you to very seriously work on identifying the drivers of the autoimmunity: foods, environmental chemicals, infections, stressors. Okay, those are the things that I would advise you to look into. The easiest thing is to start with diet. You know, there's a lot of different diets out there. I created something called the 6-week Hashimoto's transformation program. It's actually a dietary approach that we've used clinically for years. And what we did is, it's not just a diet, it's actually a program. And the program tries to address a lot of these other problems like the stress, sleep. We take you through a process of analysis where you look at what's going on with your body. Based on what's going on with your body, you make some determinations as to what's the worst. Like, so if your gut's the worst, or if you have symptoms of adrenal breakdown or fatigue, which are your stress hormones, or if it's thyroid, then what might you need to support nutritionally, right? And so there's ways that we help you to walk through understanding what might be a best approach for you from a nutritional perspective. Okay, so it's more customized to you. We have a private Facebook group for that. So if you're interested in that, you just ask us and we'll post a link below that will allow you to be able to go, and you can attend either one of the webinars that I host where we teach this program. And that's where I would recommend most people start. You know, I like that program for anyone that comes into my office because, for one thing, I know what you're doing because it's our program that we've used clinically, that we've reproduced results with. If you start some other dietary approach, I have no idea what you're doing. I don't know if you're doing it right. You can't ask me questions, and if you fail at it, then I'm just like, well, you know, I got a program that I know is clinically tested. It's worked for a lot of people, and if my program fails you, then I know where to look next. Okay. Anyway, that's a great place to start. If you want to learn more about your thyroid physiology itself, we have the 9 thyroid tests required to understand your, or 9 tests required to understand your thyroid that look at 7 thyroid hormone markers. 7, right? 7 thyroid hormone markers and 2 antibody markers, which will check TPO and TG antibodies, the thyroglobulin antibodies. And that is a fantastic place to start if you're looking at your blood work. If you want to start with dietary approach, you can start with our 6-week Hashimoto's transformation program, which is something that has worked well for a lot of people. We have a private Facebook support group, and it's really, you know, a very good deal for what we teach and how much time we put into it. 6 weeks long, 10 modules. I've put a lot of time and energy to try to make his best program possible that you can go through, that's as affordable as possible without working with me directly one-on-one. But we have a private Facebook support group just for that program, that where you can ask questions, and we support that as well as we can. Okay, so appreciate you guys coming here to learn more about your health. If there's anything we can do for you, let us know. If you have any questions, post them below, and I will try, my staff will try as much as possible to answer them. But please understand that we are overwhelmed with people contacting us from around the world, asking questions on our videos, you know, wanting help, and we only have so much time in the day. You know, I would love to answer your questions, and you know, if you guys you know, want to support us, I have to, you know, I'm in a full-time practice, so, and I have children, I have a family. If I had more time to support you guys answering questions, that'd be great, but I don't really know how to you know, allow people to pay a small amount of money so that I can answer questions and help them out. I don't know how to do that. It's, you know, there's economic and there's time constraints, or I would just sit here, you know, I would work 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day just answering questions and trying to help people, but that's not the reality of it. So I appreciate you guys. I've gotten really long-winded here, and I hope you have a wonderful day.